The Board of Commissioners, as the governing body of Clatsop County, all county service districts for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board, is now meeting in regular session. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to welcome everybody here this evening. Teresa, can we have the roll call?
Chair Quila.
Here.
Vice Chair Thompson. Vice Chair Banks. Here. Commissioner Toyoka.
Here.
Commissioner Webb. Here. Commissioner Thompson.
Here I am. Thank you.
We had an opportunity to review the agenda during our work session. Any comments or questions at this time?
Mr. Chair, if I may, I did have that one addition, page 136 of our board packet, the addition of the phrase "in the amount of $12,994.08" to be added to the item of approving cancellation of delinquent personal property tax accounts.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. We'll make sure to highlight that during our consent calendar discussion. Any other comments or questions? Okay, do we have a motion?
I move to approve with amendment.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda with the amendment. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. First item is a proclamation, PTSD Awareness Day, on page 32 of our agenda. And Angel Escobedo, I believe, is joining us virtually. Hi, Angel.
Hi, how are you?
I'll go ahead and, good. Thanks for joining us. Go ahead and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Angel Escobedo. I work for Columbia Pacific CCO. Columbia Pacific is a part of CARE Oregon and was established in 2012 and currently serves over 29,000 Oregon Health Plan members across Clatsop, Columbia, and Tillamook counties. My role at Columbia Pacific is to provide the backbone support to the Resilient Clatsop County Network in Clatsop County and the Columbia County Childhood Trauma Informed Network in Columbia County. I also have 3 sons, ages 11, 8, and 3. So that is how I show up to this work as a dad to young children. Thank you for having me here today to introduce the 2023 Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Awareness Day Proclamation, PTSD for short. So what is the Resilient Clatsop County Network? The Resilient Clatsop County Network is a group of organizations and individuals that work together to reduce adverse childhood experiences, ACEs for short, promote the use of trauma-informed practices across sectors and services, and build resilience in children and their families in Clatsop County. The aim of the network is to help build resiliency in children and families. Currently, we have over 28 member organizations from the education, healthcare, child welfare, criminal justice, and community sectors. Members include school districts, healthcare providers, local government entities, and nonprofits. In recent years, we've learned a lot more about the tremendous impact of unaddressed adverse childhood experiences on future health and well-being. And as you know, studies show that the higher the adverse childhood experience score, the ACE score, the higher the risks of health and social problems. With an ACE score of 4 or more, the rate of serious outcomes increases significantly. The connection between post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD for short, and adverse childhood experiences is that adverse childhood experiences lead to an increased risk of developing PTSD. And PTSD is a psychological response to a traumatic event, and studies show that individuals who experienced trauma in their childhood are more likely to develop PTSD when exposed to a traumatic event later in life. And this is because the trauma experienced in childhood can inhibit the development of resilience and coping mechanisms, leaving the individual more vulnerable to psychological distress. Seeking professional help from mental health providers, of course, is crucial for individuals experiencing symptoms of PTSD. So thank you, commissioners, for calling attention to PTSD in Clatsop County. It is so important. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Angel. Angel Escobedo, Senior Program Development Specialist for Resilient Clatsop County. Any comments or questions? Are we ready for a motion?
I move to approve resolution and order proclaiming June 27th, 2023 as PTSD Awareness Day and authorize the chair to read and then sign the proclamation.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order proclaiming June 27th, 2023 as PTSD Awareness Day and authorize the chair to read, then sign the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. In the matter of proclaiming June 27th, 2023 to be PTSD Awareness Day, whereas post-traumatic stress disorder can occur after an adult, youth, or child experiences trauma, and whereas sometimes learning that a friend or family member experienced trauma can cause PTSD, and whereas PTSD occurs in people of any ethnicity, nationality, or culture, and at any age, and about 6 out of every 100 people, or 6% of the U.S. population, will have PTSD at some point in their lives. And whereas women are twice as likely as men to have PTSD, and U.S. Latinos, African Americans, and Native Americans, Alaska Natives, are disproportionately affected and have higher rates of PTSD than non-Latino whites. And whereas combat-related PTSD stress among those in the armed forces is significantly pronounced, given that they are often exposed to highly traumatic events for weeks, months, and even years. And whereas professionals such as law enforcement officers, firefighters, and ambulance personnel, healthcare workers, and other professional groups may be subjected to work-related traumatic events, and whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on mental health and more negative consequences like PTSD among vulnerable age groups, including children. And whereas it is important to remember that while trauma may lead to severe distress, that distress is not the individual's fault. And whereas although PTSD is treatable, many cases remain undiagnosed and untreated due to a lack of awareness of this condition and a stigma associated with mental health conditions. And whereas PTSD is not a period at the end of a sentence, but rather a comma, there is hope for those who have experienced PTSD, and it is possible to move forward and have a full and happy life. Whereas the earlier a person gets treatment, the better chance for recovery. Raising awareness of this condition is necessary to remove any stigma and to encourage those suffering to seek professional and timely treatment that may improve their well-being or save their lives. Whereas if you yourself experience PTSD or are struggling with a mental health crisis, know that you are not alone. You have a community that cares and will answer when you call for help. It is up to all of us as a community to answer that call. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim June 27, 2023 as PTSD Awareness Day in Clatsop County, and we call upon all community members and local agencies to raise awareness of PTSD, encourage treatment, and offer support. Dated this 27th day of June, 2023. Board of Clatsop County Commissioners. Thank you so much, Mr. Escobedo, for being here.
Thank you.
Next item is a proclamation for Pride Month, and Jessica Klein with the Lower Columbia Q Center Board will go ahead and turn it over to you to present on this. Welcome.
Welcome, Jessica.
Hi, thank you. I apologize. I lost my
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I'll keep it brief. My name is Jessica. I use they, them pronouns. I'm the board chair of the Q Center, newly appointed. Pride is a really important month to recognize that love is love, that all identities are valid, that all genders and sexualities matter, and that we don't have any place for hate in our community, regardless of who someone chooses to love. And I appreciate the county commissioners for recognizing this and making this important to our community.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Jessica. Any comments, questions? Are you ready for a motion?
I move to approve resolution and order proclaiming June 2023 as Pride Month and authorize the chair to read and then sign the proclamation.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order proclaiming June 2023 as Pride Month and authorize the chair to read, then sign the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. In the matter of proclaiming June 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2023 to be Pride Month. Whereas the month of June was designated Pride Month to commemorate the Stonewall riots, which occurred in June of 1969. And whereas Clatsop County is a diverse community committed to supporting visibility, dignity, and equity for all. And whereas many of Clatsop County's residents and visitors who contribute to the enrichment of our county are part of the LGBTQIA+ community, and whereas Clatsop County celebrates the history and diversity of our county's LGBTQIA+ community and promotes a society in which all residents can live free from discrimination, and whereas Pride Month is an opportunity to celebrate this vision and the harmony in which we aspire to live. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim June 2023 as Pride Month in Clatsop County and invites all community members to join us in reflecting on ways we can all live and work together with a commitment of mutual respect and understanding. Dated this 14th day of June 2023, Board of Clatsop County Commissioners for Clatsop County. Thank you, Jessica. And next is a proclamation of Make Music Day, and Dave Ambrose, our Make Music Clatsop County Chair, I think. Welcome,
no,
Dave.
I'm just a member of the Arts Council of Clatsop County, which used to be an advisory committee for the county. And I think it's been 2 years now that we have gone as a 501c3 nonprofit. We are actively promoting the arts, not only music, in the county. In this past year, we've put on a theater workshop for young people to learn about the theater and how to do the backstage part of being putting on a theater production. This fall, we'll be having our biannual Arts Summit, where we have workshops for artists in all fields to learn about the business of doing art and how to make money doing that. And we are wrapping up a year-long survey. It's called a Prosperity Study, and we're out what the economic impact of the arts are on our county's economy. The last time we did this, it came to about $14 million that the arts, just the nonprofit arts, brought into the county and generated incomes for people, taxes for the county, taxes for the state. So we'll be getting, we've been actively going to music events, theater events, art events through the year to collect data from the people who go to these events. All that data gets sent to an organization called the American for the Arts, and they put it through their multiplier cranks and give us a final report, which should come out by the fall. So we'll have that report, and this report makes an impact when our arts organizations write grants, especially to someone like the Oregon Tourism Board that says, hey, people are coming to our county. Give us some more money to make it a more desirable place to come. So, and I understand that we had requested a small budget from the county of $1,000 for the coming year to help us put on the Art Summit. I don't know if that's in the budget, but I hope it is. Make Music Day will be next Wednesday. It's always celebrated on the solstice of the year, and there'll be 8 venues in Astoria where local musicians will be presenting short presentations. But the whole aim of Make Music Day is to get people to understand that we can all make music. We all sing in the shower. We all beat the steering wheel when there's good music on the radio. So we're hoping to see a bigger turnout than last year. As I said, there's 8 venues in Astoria and 1 in Seaside this year. So we're slowly reaching out to more people and getting them aware of this event that goes on. That's about all I had to say.
Great.
And I hope you'll all enjoy Make Music Day.
Great.
And all of you in the audience, too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dave. Any questions, comments? Do we have a motion?
I move to approve resolution and order proclaiming June 21st, 2023 as Make Music Day and authorize the chair to read and then sign the proclamation.
Second to motion.
Moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order proclaiming June 21st, 2023 as Make Music Day and authorize the chair to read, then sign the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. In the matter of proclaiming June 21st, 2023 to be Make Music Day, whereas Make Music Clatsop County is an annual one-day festival on the first day of summer that celebrates the ability of everyone to make music, presented locally by the Arts Council of Clatsop County. And whereas it is a day of music making in public spaces all throughout Clatsop County, all completely free for musicians and audiences alike. And whereas Make Music Day is inspired by France's national musical holiday, Fête de la Musique, that began in 1982 and is now an international phenomenon that takes place on the summer solstice in more than 1,000 cities in 120 countries. And whereas Make Music Day involves musicians, bands, and ensembles from a diverse array of styles and genres, including everything from classical jazz and blues to folk, pop, rock, and world music. And whereas on June 21st, 2023, Make Music Clatsop County will celebrate its second annual event as all people of all ages, musical genres, and ability levels from students and amateurs to professionals and marquee artists gather throughout the day in the county to engage in music making. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim June 21st, 2023 as Make Music Day in Clatsop County and encourages all members of the community to celebrate the joy of making music. Dated this 14th day of June, 2023, Board of Clatsop County Commissioners for Clatsop County, Oregon. Thank you very much, Dave. Appreciate all your help on all your work on the Arts Council. Yeah. Next is business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 2-minute presentation about any item on the agenda except for public hearings or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
Yes, there are.
Okay, if you've signed up to testify, please wait until you're called on, then give your name and address for the record, and you will have 2 minutes to speak. So please wait until you're called on, and
We have Gabriel Herbs.
Gabriel.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Gabriel Herbs. I live in Portland, 1547 Southeast 88th Avenue. but I am a representative for the Oregon Nurses Association for nurses who work at Providence Seaside Hospital. As some may know, we are on the verge of a large strike over a dispute related to our contract. We're totally aware the Clatsop County Commission is not a statutory body when it comes to this dispute, but we do believe it is a matter of concern to all residents of Clatsop County because Providence Seaside is an important critical access hospital. And for folks in Seaside and many around the county, the only option they have for emergency or urgent care. We've been bargaining just over 9 months on an expired contract, and we've been trying to address the crisis of nurse recruitment and retention that has plagued the communities here for a long time, largely because Providence, billion-dollar corporation, refuses to make necessary investments in nursing and patient care on the North Coast. I'm a staff representative, but also with us today is one of our bargaining unit nurses who works in the ED. I'm going to let him introduce himself when he's called by the commission. And with my remaining seconds, just want to thank the commission for making time for public comment. Invite the community to stand with us. You know, these are our nurses that do this work and take care of everyone on the North Coast. And with that, I'll thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Herbs. Next.
Nathan Weiler.
Yes, my address
Nathan?
is, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. My address is 340 Hilltop Drive in Seaside. And I'm one of the night shift ER nurses. I am here to, because I'm also the bargaining chair for Seaside. I have a great group there with me. Bargaining, and we've been bargaining for 9 months, and in our most recent session spent 17 to 19 hours depending on prep time, whether you count it or not, and whether or not you count drive time. It could have been 21, but we spent that much time there with one back and forth occurring, and not much movement on their part. We have for years dealt with discrepancies between us and Portland area hospitals, despite the cost of living change out here. And that's made things like the pay increases at Bend, which is apparently comparable to the federal government in terms of reimbursement for work done there. We've been told that the market is different here, and it's because Providence feels that they own the market and can create a lower pay scale here when we need to retain nurses that have the ability to go elsewhere. I mean, I could say a lot more, but I'm going to run out of time. So I just invite everybody also to come and support us on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Or whenever you see us striking. Please come out and picket with us.
Okay, thank you, Nathan.
I believe that's all the remote. I have Rick Bowers.
Okay, Rick.
Thank you. Rick Bowers, 357 Commercial Street here in Astoria. Today, I'd like to share some information about homelessness counts, specifically HUD's point-in-time count. Count was started by HUD in 2005. It's an unduplicated count on a single night of the people in a community who are experiencing homelessness. It includes both the sheltered and the unsheltered. It occurs in the last 10 days of January every other year. At the federal level, the counts are by continuum of care, regions of the country defined by HUD. Clatsop County is one of 26 counties in the rural Oregon continuum of care. Similar by-county data is also reported to the state of Oregon, which is what you see in the handout. There are many legitimate criticisms of the count. For example, many folks are homeless for a few days to a month, never to return to a shelter. the point-in-time count would miss many of those folks. Another criticism, how do we possibly find all the unsheltered on one particular night? The 2015 point-in-time count reported just over 500,000 homeless individuals of all ages, while another government entity says there were 3 times that number of homeless children. How can that be? Another problem is year-to-year comparisons of data. Entities have learned lessons and developed better tactics for the counts throughout the years. Some parts of increasing homelessness may be due to better counting practices. From my perspective, I view the 2021 count of 928 homeless as a minimum number of homeless who are in the county. There are probably more. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Teresa?
Charles Dice.
Welcome, Charles.
My name's Charles Dice, 31911 Clatsop Lane, Arch Cape. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to provide 2 minutes of testimony. For me personally and our grassroots group, the North Coast Neighbors United, the bad news for us was that we lost the election for Measure 4-221. The good news is we lost by only 140 votes out of almost 10,000, and that the campaign provided an opportunity to educate voters in the county about several key facts regarding Ordinance 2205 and STRs in residential neighborhoods. Number one, the county violated the law in 2018 by issuing STR permits to property owners in residential zones, and this is really what has caused all of the current problems with STRs and caused real harm in neighborhoods like Cove Beach. Number two, the STRs in these residential zones are owned by business investors who live outside of Clatsop County in places like Lake Oswego, Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, Miami. Number three, in violating the law, the county has effectively taken property rights away from residents, homeowners, and families who live and work in Clatsop County, and given these rights without any compensation to business investors who do not live in the county and who will take the lucrative profits that they collect outside of the county. Number four, by allowing and encouraging these outside business investors to buy up single-family homes in our residential neighborhoods, the county is allowing homes to be converted into commercial businesses, thereby decreasing available housing inventory at a time when the county is also declaring a crisis for housing availability. We are hoping the county will not turn their backs on half of the voters in the county and just impose Ordinance 2205 as written. We would hope that the county would consider a better and more positive way to govern by finding a middle ground that would bring the two sides together. Such a middle ground is, in fact, right in front of the commissioners today, and that would be to simply modify 2205 to adopt the recommendations from the county's own Planning Commission as approved in March of 2022. This would be an immediate, equitable, and fair solution to the STR problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
Lane Borg.
Welcome, Lane.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Lane Borg. I'm a public defender here in Astoria, but I also live in unincorporated Clatsop County at 4641 High Ridge Road in Gearhart. I was a supporter of the recent ballot measure, but I'm not here tonight to talk about that, but to talk about how we live with STRs. Because these are commercial for-profit activities, and any economist would tell you that to work you must maximize efficiency and to maximize profit. In that role, government, you, are to make sure those efficiencies don't impact the community too much or too negatively. These efficiencies are to maximize occupancy, minimize overhead, so perhaps allow 3 people per bedroom rather than 2, not invest in oversight and not invest in maintenance. These are already happening in our county. I know this because I have 3 STRs that border my house. And when I look at the registered ones, the advertised amount of occupancy is more than 2 persons per bedroom. So they're clearly putting more people in there. I also have know that were stated to us that the policy of the sheriff's office was not to respond to violations of rules of short-term rentals, and I understand that. But last weekend, the violation was banging on doors and lurking in people's yards. So the sheriff came out twice. And in my practice, I have a client who works for an STR, and what she was telling me was that she was that she's paid a flat fee for whether she cleans, whether it's 2 people or 10 or takes 2 hours or takes 8. She is also, by doing this in the gig economy, it's a depressed income. I mean, note that she qualified for a public defender even though she worked for a company with STRs. So these are things that are having impacts on our community already. And the risk is that there could be environmental impacts from septic tank overflow, increased law enforcement costs to responding, and an increase on social services from depressed wages on it. So I just ask that you consider reasonable regulations to protect us from these impacts. Thank you.
Thank you, Lane.
Denise Davis?
Denise?
Oh.
Jeff Davis.
Thank you. Good evening. It's good to see you all personally, finally. My name is Jeff Davis. I live at 79432 Ray Brown Road in Arch Cape, Cove Beach with Denise. And I'm also here to talk about Measure 4221. This campaign certainly got ugly, didn't it? Those of us supporting 4221 were appalled as some of those opposed to the measure, 1, misrepresented the impact of the measure, 2, flouted state campaign finance laws, 3, attempted to prevent voters from their democratic right to voice their opinion about the issue, 4, registered to vote in the county just for this election, providing false information about their actual residency, 1 even lying under oath about his voting history, and 5, vilified Measure 4221 proponents by name on social media in the crudest manner. My wife and I, in fact, were directly threatened in at least one of these posts. This is the kind of behavior you will be condoning if you allow Ordinance 2205 to proceed without requiring accompanying restrictions. We are under no illusions as to what will happen if Ordinance 2205 goes forward with no caps or other limitations. The lure of huge profits and ensuing tax revenue will certainly overshadow the benefits to residents of a sense of community and quality of life. We encourage you now to continue the discussion of reasonable and fair caps in our residential zones that you began last summer in return for Commissioner Webb's vote. A good start would be to gather a group of community members from both sides of the issue, those directly affected, to determine the best way to proceed in applying caps to STR permitting and other restrictions to STR implementation in residential zones. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all for public comment.
Okay. Anyone else in the audience that wants to participate in public comment might not have signed up? Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll move on. Our next item is Commissioner's Reports. We'll start with Commissioner Toyoka. Huh? Oh, consent, I'm sorry. My gosh, jumped over. We'll move on to the next item, which is the consent calendar. And I know that Commissioner Thompson, we had one item on the consent calendar we wanted to highlight.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 15, on page 136 of our board packet, I would ask, sir, that the addition of the phrase that includes the dollar amount of it, just because I like those dollar amounts in motions that have fiscal impact. So if we added the phrase in the amount of $12,994.08, I am well content to otherwise adopt the rest of the consent calendar.
Any comments, questions to that? Okay.
Is that a motion?
Do we have a motion?
Sure. I would move to adopt the amended consent calendar, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt the amended consent calendar. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now we'll move on to Commissioner's reports. And Commissioner Toyoka.
Thank you. And, it's wonderful to see everyone here tonight. Thank you very much for coming. I'm gonna give you short, because personally, I did go to some meetings, Human Services, committee, Public Safety Coordinating Council, you know, and then a lot of work with the Regional Housing Task Force, just doing more, always diligently working on that one. As stated before, it's housing in Clatsop County, or housing basically, is not just one solution, but there are many facets to housing. If you look at supported housing, temporary housing, then the next step, where do you go from there? If you look at something of affordable housing, what is the next step? A path. The goal is to not have people stagnate in any location of housing. Always give them a path forward. We don't want transient housing to be a permanent solution, a temporary condition until we can provide help and assistance to move forward. That's the main goal of the Housing Task Force, define that path, and then how do we achieve that? A lot of different funding avenues between ARPA and local budgets and different agencies, but it's just the melding of all that to provide that pathway. And on a personal note, I spent a lot of time last week with graduations. You know, had a son graduate, had a nephew graduate, and then just the comment I make there is that yes, I had an individual son graduate, but the communities that turn out for our youth, Napa, Seaside, Astoria, Warrenton, I mean, it is amazing. You go to some of the big cities, you know, up in Portland area, and it's, you know, their support, but not just the families, but the entire community turns out to support these youth. And, you know, the only reason I'm here today and on this board is to support the youth, the future. I'm not here for me or even our generation. I'm here to help the future, and those kids are our future. So thank you all for supporting that next generation and our future in Clatsop County.
Here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Congratulations, Commissioner Toga. Is that two down?
Two down.
Two down. All right. Congrats. Commissioner Webb.
Well, I too, and I guess I can't help but also comment, even though I went to 4 high schools, and I was a kid, I was a Coast Guard junior. And, but I was lucky enough to graduate from high school in a Coast Guard city that is probably as far away from Astoria as is possible, Cape May, New Jersey. And one of the great benefits of my last year in high school was we were in a small town, and so the newspaper reported on what was going on in the high school. Mm-hmm. High school sports were right there in the newspaper, just like they are here. And it saddens me that every kid in America doesn't grow up in a town like this that just honors high schools the way we do here. Every year when I open up my paper and I see the graduation list for every high school in the county. I mean, pictures, where they're going to school, who's getting scholarships. I mean, we celebrate it, and I just think it's wonderful. Wonderful. The other great thing that I get to do as a member of this commission is to attend the graduation from our various classes that go through our court system. You might have to help me out here about the name. This was the drug. Right. These are programs that are in lieu, that are run by the courts, and they're in lieu of incarceration. They have to go through a prescribed program that involves 8 of our local staff people from different departments. And it is one of the great events in my life. This past Monday, it was Kurt Wintermute's first graduation. He's one of our new judges, and we had 3 graduates. One of those graduates all 3 of them had been sober for over 365 days. It was just miraculous. One of the graduates had been arrested 37 times. And it was so wonderful. These graduations they're graduations. Families come, friends come, there's cake, It's a real celebration, and it's celebration of the best kind. It's a celebration of people's future. You know, really, really wonderful graduation, and the commitment of our staff, which is phenomenal for it. So, let's just end it there. I won't do the buy-up. Yeah, we're gonna deal with that later.
We'll stay positive.
Yeah, let's stay positive. Let's stay positive.
No, thank you very much, Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Banks.
Well, to start, Northwest Senior and Disability Services, we renewed contracts for vendors and just for care services, and it was nice to see that Classic Care was listed in that this year. Followed with a Fair Board meeting, and Fair is going to be, in my opinion, a really wonderful down-home situation this year. There are a lot of activities up for children, and I'm excited to see what comes about, and I'm really pleased to see how very active our Fair Board is right now and how very dedicated they are. They're meeting, you know, once a week at this point, and for a volunteer board, that's impressive. They're very dedicated to that success. Then I testified at the most recent Fair Board, or sorry, I had Fair on the mind. The most recent Board of Forestry meeting. Sorry, I apologize. Board of Forestry meeting last week, Wednesday. Unfortunately, I was unable to go to Sisters. I'm not really sad not having to make that drive, but thank you, Sheriff, for doing that long drive for us. And my daughter also used her voice during that meeting, which was really made her mom proud. Followed with having a child care meeting, a child care task force meeting. I really have to say yet again, what a blessing those ARPA funds are for our community and having a measurable impact in child care. One of the numbers that they reflected on was a 17% increase in care seats available for the preschool-aged children in our county, and that is a really large increase in availability for our kids. And so the focus now is turning towards the 0 to 2 age group, but also to sustain that increase that we've created in our community. And we're talking about either becoming a 501c3 or partnering under the umbrella of EESD and CCR&R. And so those discussions will continue through August, but I'm really just thrilled to see this group of dedicated individuals determined to make this something continuous for our county. I know that we as a commission forked over ARPA dollars with a hope and a prayer and a very small group of people, and it's turned into a much larger group of people, and we have donors from major businesses like both of our hospitals, and so it's wonderful to see. So I'm really pleased to be participating in that. And then I don't want to forget anything, so I'm going to look at my my calendar. I think I've hit everything in the last week and a half. Maybe. Oh, graduation. My nephew graduated. He's joining the military. I'm really kind of sad, happy, bittersweet. And then graduation is just such a fun thing, and I finished my last day of school yesterday. Ooh. So I slept in till 7:30 this morning. It was awesome.
Congratulations, Commissioner Banks. Commissioner Thompson.
Yes, the generations pass. My grandson graduated. He is in Wisconsin. His parents are college professors. He's studying psychology with a minor in neurobiology, so I can send him TED Talks about neuroplasticity of the human brain. So I'm not the only one in the family, colleagues, where we talk about this. I mean, it really is it's very joyful. And I want to balance that with saying that I went to the community fundraiser at the American Legion for the Nolasco family who've lost 4 members of their family in traffic accidents and car crashes, and that's heartbreaking. The kind of the upside of that is that I just got a call today, and Congresswoman Bonamici is taking an interest in Elk Creek Terrace, where the family lived, to help work on rehabilitating it, because it was one of those very early public-private ventures. The contract was bad, the maintenance was deferred. There's millions in repairs to be done, but she's interested in, and you know how capable she is. So we're hoping for a happy ending in that. There's that. I brought my show and tell. This is, in fact, colleagues, my American Radio Relay Cup, because if you are a ham radio operator, you also want to be a member of the American ARRL, because then it helps support the whole network all across the country. And they will give you a swell cup in the mail if you do that. I've got other things to say. The Colpack is getting a new executive director. Ariane Colombo's returning to graduate school. She's a brilliant economist. She's going to get her doctorate. So tomorrow the applications close. So if you know somebody and they haven't applied, ask them to apply. I would tell you, I got to sit down around the table with the governor. Viviana made sure that happened. What I could do was not only listen to the insurance company talk about their challenges for the things that they have to do that they can't bill for, and to talk about housing. I could raise up law enforcement and the collaboration we have in Clatsop County with the hospitals and law enforcement and behavioral health. The governor, we're a model for this because we have collaboration and communication so that we can lift up everybody, so we can take care of the issues that arise in the schools that might snag our kids. We can help raise up and heal those who need healing. So this is where the cosmic stuff comes in. I could say to the governor at the end of the meeting, I was in a conversation in my driveway this week because a couple of guys came to put in new gutters. And we got in a conversation about drug addiction and homelessness, because I have those conversations. I want to hear what people's experience. So we were talking about it. And one of the men said he had been homeless, he had been drug addicted. What worked for him was somebody monitoring him. That permanent supportive housing wasn't permanent, it was temporary supportive housing, because somebody was with him, monitoring him and his behavior. He said, that had to happen until my brain changed how it worked. I could touch Amy Baker and say, what you're doing is working, because that's what she's doing. It's a collaborative community effort. It's working. So now the goosebumps, this is a happy dance. This young man now has a home and a job and a life because of getting the appropriate care and moving on. But I did raise the FEMA buy-up and the HCP and say to the governor, it's a three-legged stool. Yes, we need housing of all kinds, Commissioner Token, yes. And we have to have effective behavioral and physical health care. We need jobs. That's the three-legged stool. It doesn't work unless we have jobs for people. So I'm sure it'll happen now. Thank you. That's the end of my report.
No, thank you, Commissioner Thompson. And similarly to Commissioner Thompson, the county manager and myself got an opportunity to spend some time with the governor on Thursday night last week. And it is something that we're able to talk about the steps that we're taking in all of these areas. And you know, we're not sitting on our hands waiting for funding. We're actually taking action. And the steps we've taken with childcare, steps we've taken with behavioral health, housing, homelessness, all of these things are real, I think, impactful. And I think it made an impression on her as well, that we are doing with few resources, we have accomplished a lot, and we're certainly taking steps in the right direction. We provided kind of a state of the county assessment and maybe a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats that we're seeing on the horizon, and talked a lot about economics and HCP, the threat on the horizon with how that could really impact not just the county's finances, but finances for special districts throughout our county, and talked a lot about just overall tourism, the impacts of tourism, how constricted we are with using transient room tax dollars, and how that it could be utilized in much better fashion to offset some of those impacts. But it was a great discussion. I brought my 8-year-old daughter, who's going to be she's graduating from first grade tomorrow, so she will be. And so she had actually a good time and was pleased to be at the table and take a picture with the governor at the end. At the end of it made me very grateful for our county manager, because he was able to relay his experience in Washington County for 29 years that he spent in Washington County, and see from that perspective, and then come to Clatsop County and see what the lack of resources and, the uniqueness of our economic picture and the things that we have to deal with in comparison and contrasting with an urban county. And he has such credibility that he's able to talk to the governor on that level and describe it, being immersed in it in the last 3.5 years now. Is it 3.5 years? Almost 4 years.
Sorry.
But I was really pleased, because I think our county manager did an excellent job of outlining the issues and providing the perspective that I think related to her. She said she was concerned about our economic picture and would certainly look at the HCP and how that, maybe there are some alternatives that can be considered. We'll see. The one thing I had requested is that we wanted to have a number that we could call the governor's office, because we know that things are going to evolve over time. And I did hear back today that they're getting me that. So I still don't have it, but I think it's important to have that, to have the ear of the governor's office when, we find issues that are unique to Clatsop County that need to have some state intervention. So that's kind of how it was a good meeting. It was a friendly discussion and one that I hope will will continue and won't be the last one. So.
Could I just add?
Yeah.
I said a couple of times that Clatsop County is committed to being the governor's ally, and mentioned that our county board of commissioners and the city councils all across the county want to be her allies and partners going forward.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's very important. Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. County Manager.
Chair Cuello, members of the board, I agree with Chair Cuello. We had a great meeting with the governor. It's good to be able to share Clatsop County's story, and I think we do have a unique story and a unique community. And so one of the things that there's been a lot of effort on, I think it says a lot about Clatsop County and the uniqueness, is that, in order to really address some of these major issues we are facing, and we're only seeing part of the issues, but to really face them, you have to have a community that's willing to have coordinated muscle movement with all the various sectors, the public sector, the private sector, the nonprofit sector, the civic sector, the religious sector. And we have that. we have a community that's rallying around these issues, and that allows us to come up with local solutions that will be enduring. And then all of that collaboration and that muscle movement will allow us to tackle future problems, because we have a method to actually problem solve as a community. There's no doubt that we are resource light. And that, I think, is something that as we define and problem solve these issues, it'll be easier for us to go and ask and then access issues, because we have some programs and some services and some ideas that are ready to be actionable. And those are the kinds of things that we talked about with the governor. I mean, we are ahead of a lot of communities. And it doesn't seem like that because our problems are many. And these are problems that if there was an easy solution, we wouldn't be where we were, where we are or where we were. So, you know, I'm gratified by a lot of things. I'm gratified to have the governor here listening to us. And I think that she is much more aware of our issues. And there's some unique coastal issues. And we've had communications with them since, with the staff. Chair Coelho mentioned transient lodging tax. If she, the governor, is willing to provide leadership on the transient lodging tax issue, that would be huge. And so, and that in and of itself would give us a runway in dealing with some of the HCP challenges. So I thought that was a good start. I just want to remind the board that Monday is a holiday. It's Juneteenth, and so the county will be closed, as will cities. And then I just wanted to remind, there was an article in the newspaper about the rural broadband investments that are being made by Charter. And so Charter will be coming to an upcoming work session and providing an update to your board on those efforts. And I wish I could remember the date. It is scheduled, but of course I can't remember the date. But I think it's in July. I just wanted to let you know that Charter will be here following up, and that's all I have. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, County Manager. Okay, we'll move on to our first public hearing of this evening. It's public hearing and adoption of the fiscal year 2023-2024 county budget on page 146. And Monica Steele, our Assistant County Manager,
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners.
will be
And
providing.
so I'm assuming you all have your book, so we can go page by page?
Oh, yes. I memorized it.
Well, I carry it with me everywhere I go.
Thank you.
I recycled it.
So, as you're all aware, we're here this evening to adopt the county budget. On May 17th, the Budget Committee approves the 23-24 annual budget, and so now the board will need to allow for a hearing to receive public comment. Following public comment, staff is asking for the board to formally adopt the county's budget. The attached resolution and order adopts the 23-24 budget in an amount of $98,902,880, imposes and categorizes the taxes provided for in the approved budget, and at a rate of 1.5338 per 1,000 of assessed value of all taxable property within Clatsop County for operations, and at the rate of 0.07 per 1,000 of assessed value for a local option levy. And then it also levies bonded debt in the amount of $1,176,000 and makes appropriations in accordance with local budget law. It reflects the budget as it was approved by the Budget Committee, unless the board is proposing any additional changes. And just a reminder that Oregon budget law limits the governing bodies to increases in approved budget expenditures to $5,000 or 10% of the fund, whichever is greater. And so I am here to answer any questions after, if there is anything during public comment.
Okay. Thank you, Assistant County Manager Monica Steele, for the staff report. At this time, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
No, there are not.
Okay. Are there any members of the public that want to speak at this time? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Do we have any discussion? Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Were these data that are on page 146 at the bottom of the page, the fiscal impact, were those in line with what you anticipated? Were there any surprises there, or?
In regards to changes from the budget committee, because this is the same as what was with the approved changes at the budget committee level.
Right. I just wondered, I didn't take the time to ask the question then, because why muddy the water when?
Well, if I might, Chair Quilla, if I might, Commissioner Thompson.
Yeah.
I think that those numbers on the bottom of 146 those are the results of all of our efforts in the budget process that was based upon the projection models we have been working on. And so we had a point we wanted to get to in the budget process that would allow us to have financial stability as we move forward, because we know we're going to have a little headwind with the HCP. And so those numbers on the bottom of 146, which are the fiscal impacts, is basically us hitting the mark for where we need to be for this next fiscal year. Thank you.
That was my effort to, what do they do in volleyball to set it up so he could spike it?
Spike, nice. Any other comments, questions? Do we have a motion?
I move that the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for 2023-24 by organizational unit imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, levying for bonded debt, and making appropriations for Clatsop County as approved by the budget committee with board requests as well as staff recommended changes.
Second the motion.
Moved and seconded that the board approves the resolution adopting the budget for 2023-24 by organizational unit, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, levying for bonded debt, and making appropriations for Clatsop County as approved by the budget committee with board requests as well as the staff recommended changes. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll move on to the public hearing and adoption of fiscal year 2023-24 budget for Clatsop County 4-H and Extension District on page 154.
Great, thank you. So at the meeting on May 10th, the Clatsop County 4-H and Extension District Budget Committee approved the 23-24 budget. The attached resolution and order adopts the 23-24 Clatsop County 4-H and Extension Special Service District budget of $749,590. Imposes and categorizes the taxes provided for in the approved budget at the rate of 0.0534 per 1,000 of assessed value of all taxable property within Clatsop County, and makes appropriations in accordance with local budget law, and reflects the budget as proposed by the Budget Committee.
Thank you, Assistant County Manager Monica Steele. At this time, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
No, there are not, but I see Wiley is
I
on.
see Wiley's here.
If he had anything to say.
Mr. Thompson, would you like to provide any public comment?
I would just like to say thank you for the work that that Monica does for us, and also for the cooperation and partnership we have with both the elected officials, the stakeholders, the community members, and volunteers in Clatsop County. It makes for just a great partnership and amplifies what we get, the county contributions, the state and federal contributions, so that we can just do so much impactful programming through our efforts in the community. So thank you for your partnership.
Yeah, thank you very much, Wiley. Any other comments at this time?
Informal?
No?
No, because it's a public hearing.
Yeah, public hearing. So, yeah. Any other comments during public hearing? Okay, at this time, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and then comments from the commission. Commissioner Webb.
Well, especially while Wiley is on the other end of the phone, I hope that our citizens appreciate the fact that we have an outstanding extension service in this county. I myself am a proud graduate of a land grant university, so I certainly value land grant universities. I can tell you honestly that in a community where we have no higher education other than, not to belittle our fabulous community college, but our extension service here functions as a university right here. And it's a hands-on university. I really can't emphasize to citizens the extent to which the extension service provides an enormous amount of energy and information, advice, and counsel to our local community. And it's just an incredible asset that we have that I don't think we have enough parades to to celebrate how wonderful they are. And we happen to have I think because of Wiley's help, we have an outstanding group of extension agents here, and they are incredibly valuable in our community.
Agree. Yeah, well said, Commissioner Webb. And go Beavs.
Amen.
Any other comments? Any other discussion? We have ready for a motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
I move that the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for 2023-24 by organizational unit, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, and making appropriations for Clatsop County 4-H and Extension Special Service District budget as approved by the Budget Committee with staff recommended changes.
Moved and seconded that the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for 2023-24 by organizational unit, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, and making appropriations for Clatsop County 4-H and Extension Special Service District budget as approved by the Budget Committee with staff recommended changes. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Did you hear the go Beavs? Just making sure you heard it, Commissioner. No, the Beavs.
My son's gonna go to University of Oregon next semester.
Come on, the Beavs are always...
Thank you, Wiley. Next is the public hearing and adoption of fiscal year 2023-24 budget for Clatsop County Rural Law Enforcement District on page 158.
Thank you, Chair. At the meeting on May 10th, the Clatsop County Rural Law Enforcement District Budget Committee approved the 23-24 annual budget, and the board will now need to allow for a public hearing to receive public comment. Following public comment, staff is asking the board to formally adopt the Rural Law Enforcement District budget. The attached resolution and order adopts the 23-24 County Rural Law Enforcement District budget in the amount of $4,728,090, imposes and categorizes the taxes provided for in the approved budget at the rate of 0.7195 per thousand of assessed value of all taxable property within Clatsop County, and makes appropriations in accordance with Oregon local budget law. It reflects the budget as approved by the Budget Committee.
Thank you, Assistant County Manager Monica Steele, for the staff report. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
No, there are not.
Is there anyone here that is wanting to speak, testify on this? Okay, not seeing any. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. Any discussion? Commissioner Toyoka?
I don't know if any, when you look at rural law, most people don't even know what rural law encompasses and how far-reaching it is, and just how thin our resources are for how large our county is. So I hope in the future we do have those discussions with the governor's office, do make headway with that transient law tax, because any funds we can appropriate from that transient law tax to assist rural law would greatly enhance our abilities here in this county.
Yep. So, I agree. Thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. Do we have a motion?
I have a comment or a question.
Sorry, Commissioner Banks.
I just wanted to ask, Sheriff, how long does it take for a deputy to travel from South County to East County?
I think it depends on the situation and the time of the year, Commissioner. So from Arch Cape to Astoria, this time of year, probably, 45 minutes, and then all the way to Brownsmead, another 35, 40 minutes.
Okay. I
With
just
traffic.
wanted, to really conceptualize that because as we face potential cuts with the HCP and whatnot, it's just eye-opening. And thank you. And you drive as fast as you want. Stay safe, though.
Well, we gotta set a good example, so.
Well, yeah, see, 'cause I drive and, people know my car, so I do my best, but, I don't make it that fast 'cause traffic is more and more congested. It's single lane traffic, and there's no way to do it safely when people wanna, I would call it dawdling, that's kind of pejorative, but it's beautiful country and they wanna eyeball it instead of pulling off. They stop for elk, they do all of those things. They impact all the rest of us, but when you're doing law enforcement or the ambulance service is responding, it's, an even more challenging situation. Just to acknowledge that exacerbates it.
It is.
Yep. We ask a lot of our rural law enforcement and our sheriff's department, and they do it with very little resources, so thank you, Sheriff. Yep.
Met Tux.
Oh, yes.
In person?
Yes, in person. I can't say that a police dog is adorable, but yes.
He's intimidating, but he prefers to be more like a cat.
Yeah. So my
At home.
preschool students loved him.
Yeah.
Loved him.
Isn't it appropriate to bring him for to a commission meeting and have? No, because you can't bring dogs into county offices to ask the county manager.
We have an
He's an officer
administrative
of the
policy
law.
that does not allow animals in county buildings
Wait a minute,
unless it
don't
is
we
a
make
service
rules here?
animal.
Well, it is it's an officer of the law.
That's
Chair-
true.
Officer.
Chair Quayla, members of the board, if I could real quick, the sheriff and Chief Crutchfield will be, at the next work session to give a law enforcement update and a fire update, so.
Yeah. I imagine if we brought Tex in here, no one's gonna tell us no.
That's
So,
Did you?
I think that's a safe bet.
I'm sorry, Monica.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I move that the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for 2023-24 by organizational unit, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, and making appropriations for Clatsop County Rural Law Enforcement District as approved by the Budget Committee or as revised by the board.
Second.
Move that the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for 2023-24 by organizational unit, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, and making appropriations for Clatsop County Rural Law Enforcement District as approved by the Budget Committee or as revised by the board. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much, Sheriff, and thanks to your department for all they do.
Thanks, Chuck.
Next item is public hearing and adoption of fiscal year 2023-24 budget for Clatsop County Road District Number 1, page 162 of our agenda, and Assistant County Manager Monica Steele.
At the meeting on May 10th, the Clatsop County Road District Budget Committee approved the 23-24 budget. The board will now need to allow for a hearing to receive public comments, and following those comments, we ask that the board adopt the budget. The attached resolution and order adopt the 23-24 County Road District Number 1 budget in the amount of $4,191,050, imposes and categorizes the taxes provided for at the rate of 1.0175 per 1,000 of assessed value of all taxable property within Clatsop County, and makes appropriations in accordance with local budget law. It reflects the budget as approved by the Budget Committee.
Thank you, Monica, for the staff report. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing at this time. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak?
No, there are not.
Okay, anyone in the room that wants to speak? Not seeing any, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Do we have any discussion from the board?
No, I'd like to.
Okay. Commissioner Thompson.
I just want to take this time to publicly appreciate, the Clatsop County Road Department, the Public Works. Oh, doesn't he love it when I talk like that? There he gets out.
Good, we
Well,
get Terry up here.
So here we are in rural Clatsop County, and, our roads don't meet county standards, so we can't add them to the system, because the county wouldn't accept them, because it would be stupid to do that. I mean, it would be fiscally irresponsible, sorry, let's be precise in this language. Nevertheless, our road department finds ways to do acceptable levels of good whenever possible. And I just want to appreciate the fact that you obey the law and that you still look for ways to help constituents with an essential public resource. So please accept my appreciation for roads and bridges and everything you do, and drainage, oh my goodness, drainage ditches besides, to help us maintain a transportation system under very challenging circumstances.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll pass that on to my crews.
Yeah, very well said. Commissioner Banks?
I just want, while you're here, I don't get to see you very often, but to extend my appreciation for how well you have, I don't know the correct terminology to use, managed, assisted, the group of Napa students that have chosen to engage with our government agency. It's wonderful to see kids use their voice, and so I'm appreciative of the grace of our county and of our roads department of UTERI in helping them understand, where the money goes and how to engage in this process to the biggest benefit of all. So I just wanted to say thank you.
They've had some pretty good ideas for that area, and we've taken a look at some of their suggestions, and some of them have panned out.
Well, and there are a handful of really good kids, so, yeah, thank you.
I hope that information is disseminated through our public affairs officer.
What would you like to see?
If there's a list of things that they suggested that you saw merit in, if we could promote that.
And them. Promote them also.
That's the whole point, right?
I think we can make that happen.
Give them a good high five. Yeah.
Any other comments, questions, discussions? You ready for a motion?
I move the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for 2023-24 by organizational unit, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, and making appropriations for Clatsop County Road District 1, Number 1, as approved by the Budget Committee or as revised by the board.
Again. I move that the board approve the resolution. It's been moved and seconded that the board approve the resolution and adopting the budget for 2023-24 by organizational unit, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, and making appropriations for Clatsop County Road District Number 1, as approved by the Budget Committee or as revised by the board. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Yeah, thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Next item is the public hearing and adoption of fiscal year 2023-24 budget for Westport Sewer Service District on page 166.
At the meeting on May 10th, the Westport Sewer Service District Budget Committee approved the 23-24 annual budget. We're now asking that you receive public comment, and following the public comment, formally adopt the budget. The attached resolution and order adopts the 23-24 Westport Sewer Service District budget of $512,540 and makes appropriations in accordance with the Oregon local budget law, and it reflects the budget as approved by the Budget Committee.
Okay, thank you for the staff report. This time we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Teresa, has anyone signed up to speak?
No, they have not.
Okay, anyone in the room wish to speak on this? Not seeing any, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. Any discussion? Ready for a motion?
I move that the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for 2023-24 by organizational unit and making appropriations for Westport Sewer Service District as approved by the Budget Committee or as revised by the board.
Second. Moved and seconded that the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for 2023-24 by organizational unit and making appropriations for Westport Sewer Service District as approved by the Budget Committee or as revised by the board. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank
you very much,
And
Monica. Well done.
Thank you.
Fantastic
And in
job.
case you all missed it, we did receive an offer back for our finance director, who is slated to start on July 31st.
Oh, that's wonderful news.
And
That's
so
great.
now you can hand that big book to Finn.
Thank you very much, Monica. Thank you for the entire team. I think the budget process went very smoothly, and
Thank you to the
I
budget
appreciate
committee.
the cooperation, collaboration along the way, and the entire work of all the department heads to make it happen. So, thanks again. Everybody's coughing.
Oh, yeah, it's pollen season.
Yeah. Next item is ordinance 23-06, Clatsop County Comprehensive Plan Update, goals 1 through 4, 6 through 14, and goal 19 on page 171 of our agenda. And Gail Henriksen, our Community Development Director, is here. I'll turn it over to Gail.
All right, thank you, Chair, thank you, Board. I want to start this evening by just saying thank you to a lot of people who have made this process possible. We had 46 community volunteers who signed up and spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours reading packets, spending time in meetings. And I know that we have some here in the audience tonight, Patrick Corcoran, Cheryl Johnson, and Jim Allegria, and then, of course, our chair, Planning Commission Chair Chris Farrar. So they really did the bulk of the work, and I just wanted to recognize them. Also our planning staff, and especially Julia Decker and Ian Sisson, who spent a lot of time on this project, but also David Cook and Clancy Adams and Jason Pollack, who also just kept the office running when we were in meetings and putting agendas together. I especially want to thank the county manager, who provided a lot of support and guidance to keep this process moving, and of course your board for your commitment for seeing it through all the way to the end. So having said thank you to very many people, it was about 9 months ago to the day, actually, when we were thinking that we would go forward with this first reading. And that didn't happen, but in the intervening time, staff has worked with the county manager to go through and make additional refinements to the comprehensive plan update. And so those are listed starting, I believe, on page 309, maybe 308. And basically what we've done is we pulled the narrative section out of each goal, put those into separate background reports that will get adopted separately as part of this process, but just leaving the goals, objectives, and policies in each of the different goals in the comprehensive plan. We have pulled Goal 5, and we'll put that on a separate track for review and approval, which will be determined in the future what that schedule will be. The reason that we pulled it is that Goal 5 is very complex. It has a lot of technical information, and it covers so many different topics that it's just too big to continue as part of this process and keep moving forward. So we're going to put that on its own approval track. You know, of course, also that goals 16 through 18, we have requested funding that's been approved to hire consultants to do that work, to update those goals. And then we have 6 community plans that our Citizen Advisory Committee members worked on, which will also follow a separate review and approval track that has yet to be determined. So we did bring this to your board during a work session on March 15th, and then also to the Planning Commission for a public hearing on May 9th. The Planning Commission did vote 6-0 to recommend that your board approve this ordinance 2306 as presented. I'm here today really to answer any questions, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the staff report. Gail Henriksen, Community Development Director. Any questions at this time? First, we have to hold the first reading by title only, so I'm going to turn it over to County Council.
This is ordinance number 23-06 in the matter of an ordinance adopting amendments to Clatsop County Comprehensive Plan Goals 1 through 4, 6 through 14, and Goal 19.
Thank you, County Council. Do we have any questions?
Of course.
Commissioner Thompson.
Well, thank you. Look, we've lived to see this part of the I mean, this was a long process. There were a lot of people putting a lot of heart and soul and time into this. I'm happy we're at this stage. I want to say my concern is that I hope no one got attached to seeing their particular piece of language appear in this. Because I don't think the process was designed so that anybody in any part of this process could say, here's the language, put it in there and make it happen like that. And my concern as I listened to literally years and years of public meetings was that somebody maybe thought if they simply iterated a piece of language and repeated it, especially with emphasis, that would guarantee its inclusion. And this is instead an amalgamation. So in a way, it seemed to me it was like a chemistry. But when I looked in the water section of it, I thought I saw a lot of very prescriptive language, and I wondered about that. So can you tell me about Goal 5, and we talk about water?
Yeah, Goal 5 is not going to be part of the adoption.
I'm sorry, Goal 6. Goal 6.
Okay. Is there a particular policy or set of policies that you have questions about?
Well, I started looking at it, and I thought about, climate change is so gnarly and so impactful, and I looked at the siting policies, and I thought about how does, page 226, that's when I started making a lot of notes on the side of this. On the top of 226, policies C and D, for example, when it says Clatsop County should offer or enhance educational information regarding fire-wise landscaping, hardening of buildings, metal roofs, spark arresters, and that sort of thing. With policy D, the county should encourage the planting of more native trees which store carbon. And I thought, well, gosh, how do you reconcile that? Because what I struggle with when I look out the windows of my house is I'm supposed to harden my landscape to stay safe, and if I don't, somebody will find me or do it for me and charge me for it, and yet I'm supposed to plant trees as well. So I'm not, that particular conflict, and I had a whole bunch after that, so I'm just going to kind of run through the water quality policies. I looked at whether they were new, how to expand existing policies, how they related to urbanization, who pays to evaluate and to remedy. When I looked on page 227, policy I, work with the Northwest Region Forest Practices Committee. That's very prescriptive language. And when I looked on policies J and then down to through double B, I thought, how do we pay for this? What else doesn't happen? How do we integrate it with the other pieces of the system that are pushing on us? So I didn't feel ready to adopt this part of it, and I don't want to gum up the works. I don't want to gum up, believe me, I don't want to gum up the works. But I can't quite figure out how to implement what I see as conflicting or contradictory or expensive issues.
You can go ahead, Carol.
Okay, thank you. So, Commissioner Thompson, so one thing I want to point out to you, when we had, from 9 months ago to today, one of the things that planning staff worked on with the county manager was to go item by item through the policies that have been drafted, compared to the statewide planning goals, compared to the Oregon revised statutes and the Oregon administrative rules, to identify what is mandatory under state statute and what is discretionary for the county. So you'll see that reflected in here when you see statements like should or may, which are discretionary. It doesn't mean that we're obligated as a county to take those on. Things that we are obligated and required to do under state law are identified as shall. So when you see, for example, at the top of page 226, policies C and D, those are both discretionary. So it's not something the county is required to do, but if we choose to, we can do that. In terms of being, in this particular instance with policy C and D, a conflict, I would say that I think that I don't see that conflict the way that you see that. What I is that, first of all, we do want to encourage people to, prepare fire-wise and keep vegetation away from their house. The second policy, D, doesn't necessarily mean that any property owner is required to plant trees on their property where we just told them cut them down, keep your 30-foot clear area. But there are maybe other areas in parks or other places where trees could be planted and should be encouraged. It's not mandatory, but it's encouraged. And same thing with the water policies that are underneath that. And to go back to your policy I example, where it says, first of all, I want to point out that it says may encourage, so again, not required, but there is actually a very specific process set up under state law that when you do have these changes that you want to address or issues that you want to address, you do take them very specifically to the Northwest Region Forest Practices Committee, and that's actually spelled out in state law. So we did include that. It's not required that the county undertake this, but if somebody wants to undertake it, that was actually the process they go through. And same thing as you move through here, you'll see that a lot of these are shoulds and mays. There are very few shalls except where we've identified that need to comply with state law.
I love it when I get smarter, so thank you. There was a committee I didn't know about. Can you imagine?
What I would
I
also,
think they want volunteers.
Oh,
Yeah, there you go.
Chair Quaylen, members of the board, if I may say that also, certainly this is aspirational in a lot of ways, and the comprehensive plan by design covers a lot of ground. And so when it comes to the cost implications for the county, those are addressed on a board priority basis. It's based on the funds available basis, and it's also going to be driven by staff capacity. And all those things align priorities of the board, priorities of the community, staff capacity, other resources available to really determine what the path forward is. And that's going to change over time. I mean, this is an enduring document. I mean, we certainly don't want it to be as enduring as the last version, but it's an enduring document. And so we are covering a lot of ground, and we've tried to really do it to memorialize those things that we need to do, identify those things that we should or may do, and knowing that it's over a period of time, over many complex issues. And so there has to be flexibility in it, and that flexibility still goes to the Board of Commissioners with input from the Planning Commission, from input from the public. But that's kind of the framework that we were trying to really drive this forward with. So, if that helps.
May I?
Yeah.
I really appreciate that, because here's the thing. People care so much about this and have put so much of their lives into it. I don't want anyone to have a misunderstanding about what we will be able to do, because we can have an aspiration, but if we don't have a budget, I mean, if we're looking at slicing essential services like public safety and roads because we're not going to have revenue, and other kinds of special districts, I want that full understanding and community, I would say, growth curve. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you for listening to my questions.
And thank you for your analysis, Commissioner Thompson. Appreciate your comments. We do have to conduct the public hearing, and unless we have any other questions at this time for staff, we'll go ahead and do that. We'll open the public hearing on ordinance 23-06. Does any commissioner have a conflict of interest to report? Seeing none, clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
No, there are not.
Okay, are there any members of the public that would like to testify? On up and State your name and address for the record. You have 2 minutes to present.
My name is Jim Allegri. I live at 1264 Grand Avenue in Astoria, and I was a member of the Comprehensive Plan Committee. It was a long process, and that's not counting the COVID shutdown and the pause. But I do think that this comprehensive plan is a good balance between various interests. And I also would like to thank Gail Hendrickson for shepherding at times would be a herd of cats. And so I would like to urge the commissioners to just approve the goals as is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Allegria, and I really appreciate all of your efforts on the Comprehensive Plan Committee and the Citizens Advisory Committee, and Patrick Cochran and Cheryl Johnson as well. Thank you so much for all of your efforts and your hard work on this. It was a long time in the making, so this is the end of a long road.
Thank you, Jim.
Any other comments? Cheryl.
Cheryl Johnson, 44183 Peterson Lane. As was mentioned, I did serve as a volunteer on my local community citizen advisory committee, and then I was the liaison to the county-wide one. I would echo what Jim had to say, that a tremendous amount of work has gone into this. At this point, it is a tremendous improvement over the one that we have now that's 40 years old. I also have a concern about how long this has taken, and therefore I have two sort of questions that I would like to put out there. How soon will the county commissioners plan to review Goal 5? As Gail mentioned, it's very complex, and I understand why it got set aside, but I'm hoping that it can be scheduled and move forward. We put a lot of time in it. We're not waiting on anything for that one. Also, the 6 local plans are completed, and again, a lot of people put a lot of time into them, so when will they be considered? And I understand that 15 through 18, they're asking for funding. We haven't even started on those, and those haven't been scheduled, but I would urge you to finish up this 40-year-old plan sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. And again, Goal 5 concerns wetlands, riparian areas, setbacks. Very complex issue. We went through city of Warrenton about 20 years ago, and that took a long time to resolve. Do we have any timeline on the next steps, Gail?
The staff has not developed a timeline. That would be something that we'd work with the county manager on and schedule that to bring back to you for further discussion.
Thank you.
Chair Quilla, members of the board, I'll say that we will start that process and bring something to you as soon as Gail and I have time to kind of debrief after all this. Yeah. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment at this time?
I'm going to comment about
Sure.
this.
Sure.
I just hope that everybody can understand that that part of the issues in Goal 5 are that we are presently in the process of taking a look at some of the work that's being done by the sea level rise folks, and some other issues, including the FEMA re-examination of our floodplain issues. And a lot of this is going to come together, so it would be impossible really for us to do a Goal 5, I think, probably within the next year or so, because these other things are suddenly on the map and that we can consider them. So I think in order to do the best job, we need to do this carefully. This is something we cannot put off. The other ones, though, I think they're in the budget, so they're moving right along.
I think that's a really good point, Commissioner Webb. Okay. Do we have any? Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to acknowledge that our planning department has been dealing with some very hefty issues in the county with both short-term rentals and this comprehensive plan. And So though we would all wish everything to move much faster, we have a very limited supply of staff and number of folks that are using their muscles in order to move this forward. And so I just appreciate the efficiency that you have shown, moving two very weighty topics forward.
Yeah.
So, and almost at the same time. So if you need a nap, I would understand.
Agreed. Hey, do we have any other members of the public that would like to speak? That's okay. No, that's okay. We're gonna, yeah. No, we'll go ahead and we'll close the public hearing at this time. Do we have any further additional comments from the commission? Commissioner Thompson.
Just one thing. When I was participating in this, sometimes I heard in my neighborhood plan about the development of it, that the only people who should count were people who lived permanently in Clatsop County, full-time here, and no one else should be allowed to participate in the discussion or be considered in the regulations. And I think our definition of community is different than that. And I'd like us, as we go forward and we're looking at community plans, to have a more fluid and more inclusive and more welcoming. Because when we're looking at accessibility, there are various kinds of barriers to accessibility. There are physical barriers, there are financial barriers, there are a bunch of barriers. And I'd like us, the way I look at it now, and this is an evolving mindset, is it is an issue of diversity, equity, and inclusion as we look at accessibility. Sometimes when I've been listening to some of the discussions about neighborhood plans, I have heard that more as, I would call it the creation of boundaries or barriers or walls to keep people out or to not allow them to participate in the discussion. I would prefer to have a more inclusive model. I don't know how we feel about that, colleagues, because we're not talking about the community plans tonight, but since the issue was raised, I do think it's relevant, but I would also, I'd like us to hold up that inclusive model.
I agree. Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Do we have any other comments at this time? Commissioner Toyoga?
Just one quick one. Hopefully the next review is not 40 years from now. The next update that, once this is complete, that it becomes a continuous process of review. And being new to the process, in the commission, looking at a lot of the statutes that we have to adhere to, appearing to me was that a lot of them are very, urban-oriented in their guidance. And as we review these over time, we could, identify those statutes and ordinances that, we're supposed to adhere to, take those and go back with our legislative representatives and say, these do not apply to rural, the same way they do to the drafters who are urban, and modify them to fit our rural settings. Because that was some of the frustration going through that, was that it's through an urban lens versus a rural lens on a lot of the issues. I think as we review continuously, we can, bring those up, take them to our legislative representatives and address those as we continuously review this.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Toyoga. Agreed. Any other comments, questions? Gail, do you have?
I just have a short one.
Okay, Commissioner Banks.
I appreciate separating the community plans from our comprehensive plan, mainly because I feel like the comprehensive plan is a contract with the state of our obligation to the rules that they've set towards us. So it's a direct acknowledgement of what the state has asked us to do. And then I see our community plans as something more intimate, and more what is more of a county, less involvement so much so with the state, but it's more of an intimate discussion amongst ourselves on the direction our communities want to go. And so I just appreciate that separation, and I don't know who came up with that idea, but I appreciate it, and I just wanted to acknowledge it.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Banks. Commissioner Webb?
Yeah, the folks who came up with that idea, wrote it into state law a long time ago. And, I think I have decided that, I think I went back and counted, I think I have touched about 27 comp plans in the state of Oregon. And, I think it's very important to remember that a comp plan is an aspirational document. It's a philosophy document. And I think that, and it was written intentionally, actually, with a bias toward rural areas. A lot of people who practice planning in more urban areas in Oregon object to the relative rural focus. But, and that is something I think that actually DLCD is going to be looking at in the next, is some very important needed updates to the entire 100. I think it's real. I think Commissioner Banks's point is so on target about the community plans, because I think that one of the things that you have when you're in an urban area is that you have one community. I mean, yes, you have neighborhoods, you have all those things, but you're really dealing with one community. In a rural place like ours, we have such separate communities that aren't, well, we have 5 cities, of course, but remember that our jurisdiction doesn't extend to them. Right. And so the community plans Oregon is interesting to me for the states that I have worked in that we don't have a lot of sub-county jurisdictions. I once had the agony of having to work in the state of Pennsylvania, which has the second most local governments in the country. Mm-hmm. And, you know, where there are boroughs and townships and, you know, help me out, Gail, all the, you know, I mean, there must be 15 or 20 different words that are used across the country for small parish, exactly, in Louisiana, in one state, yes. So, so community plans, I think, that are a really important part. So thank you for that, because we do have communities in rural areas. I mean, we have Napa, you know, we have Brownsmead, and so those plans are really, really important. And I hope that when they arrive at us, because they're really virtually done, aren't they? I mean, they're
the final drafts as presented by the committees are completed.
Yeah. So, and I think we need to really, we've talked a lot about the comp plan, you know, in large measures. And I think the community plans really deserve our focus and attention, because they are where people live.
Right.
And, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb.
So when I lived in Portland, I had a community like that, but, I got to tell you, where I live now is not like that, because where I live now has traditionally had a lot of second homeowners. It still does. They're not registered voters. And, for example, the statement was made that the only people who should be allowed to testify were people who lived full-time in the neighborhood. So you may be looking forward to this. I have some caution about it. I think it's going to be good for us to look at it, but I wouldn't expect homogeneity. Well, I'm sorry, but I disagree with you about the idea. I think that people who live here permanently are citizens, and the other people are business owners from out of town. So just as I wouldn't invite you know, the president of Safeway to come and talk with us about, you know, what we're doing on Route 30. I also feel the same way about those absentee people. They're not absentee; they simply don't live here. But I'm such a proponent of the community plans. There was a lot of richness, I thought, that came out of them, and a lot of details that I think were very exciting. I mean, I remember Jim Nika saying that he thought that we should have a traffic circle in Miles Crossing, and those kinds of things where people really took a look at the traffic lights in Napa and recommendations that I think bear discussion.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Webb, Commissioner Thompson. Good discussion amongst the group here, and we can get back to, do you have anything else you would like to add,
I do not.
Development
Thank you.
Director? We do have a suggested motion, which is to continue the matter to the June 28th meeting.
Is that a motion, or is that
Uh,
just a request?
I'll let you make the motion. Suggested motion.
I move that we continue, until, what was the date that you said?
June 28th.
June 28th.
Moved and seconded to continue the matter to the June 28th meeting. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. And Cheryl, Jim, Patrick, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for all your hard work on this. I appreciate it. Actually got two more. So next is ordinance 23-07, Law Duck amendments to revise and update parking standards, page 317. So this is the time set for a public hearing on ordinance 23-07, Law Duck amendments to revise and update parking standards. County Council, can we have the first reading by title only?
Ordinance number 23-07, in the matter of an ordinance adopting amendments to the Clatsop County Land and Water Development and Use Code to amend parking standards.
Thank you, County Council. Gail Henriksen, our Community Development Director, would you present the staff report, please?
Thank you. Yes, just briefly, the county's parking standards have not been updated since 2010. We have utilized the Institute for Traffic Engineers parking manual, other jurisdictions' parking ratios, and done an audit of our parking standards. So the recommendations before you are to bring the county standards into line with reality-based numbers. I think we've talked about the example of Napa Pizza, and to also bring us in line with best practices within the industry. Your board looked at this on March 8th during a work session. The Planning Commission also had a work session about this on February 14th, and then on May 9th held a public hearing to recommend that your board approve ordinance 2307 as presented. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much, Gail. Do we have any questions before we get into the public hearing? Any questions?
So this is a second reading?
No.
No, this is the
No,
first reading.
We just conducted the first reading, and we would be continuing the matter at the end of this discussion, but we have to have the public hearing at this time. Does anybody have any questions before we go into the public hearing? We'll go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 23-07. Does any commissioner have a conflict of interest to report? Clerk of the board, are any members of the public signed up to speak?
No, they are not.
Anyone in the room that wants to speak on this? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. Do we have any discussion? Commissioner Banks.
I just appreciate the reflections on reality. I think that this is the beginning of our Planning Commission reflecting on our code and so on and so forth. And so I just appreciate that turn of phrase because it's so true for a rural community. It's a reflection on reality.
Any other comments? Any discussion? We have a motion?
I move to continue the matter, wrong?
No, that's
No, that's correct. Look at me go. I move to continue the matter to June 28th, 2023.
Second. Moved and seconded to continue the matter to the June 28th meeting. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. And last item is ordinance 23-08, Warrenton Urban Growth Boundary Amendment, page 336. This is the time set for a public hearing on ordinance 23-08, Warrenton Urban Growth Boundary Amendment. May we have the first reading by title only, County Council?
This is ordinance number 23-08, in the matter of an ordinance adopting amendments to the Clatsop County Comprehensive Plan regarding the urban growth boundary for the city of.
Thank you, County Council. And Gail Henriksen, Community Development Director, do you have the staff report?
Yes. Again, this is to correct a mapping error that occurred around 2005, after the time that the city of Warrenton and the town of Hammond merged their operations. When they adopted a joint and updated land use map in 2005, they inadvertently left off the two parcels that are the subject of this request this evening. The city now wishes to annex one of these parcels, and in doing so, they need to go back and correct the map amendment through a formal amendment process to the urban growth boundary. The City of Warrenton Planning Commission recommended approval of this request on February 14th. It was then sent to the county, and your board looked at it on May 24th in a work session. The Planning Commission on May 9th recommended that your board approve ordinance 2308 as presented. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail, for the staff report. Any questions? None. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 23-08. Does any commissioner have a conflict of interest to report? Clerk of the board, are any members of the public registered to speak?
No, they're not.
Okay, any members of the public in the room want to speak on this? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. Any discussion? Okay, do we have a motion?
Move to continue the matter to June 28th, 2023.
Move and seconded to continue the matter to the June 28, 2023 meeting. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Gail.
Thank
for
you.
Double, triple, quadruple duty. Appreciate it. Agenda, does anybody have an item for the good of the order? Okay, not seeing any.